All right, it is late March still, and I finished reading King Lear by William Shakespeare. Um, this, I believe, is one of his earlier ones. Um, there's like, this is one of those ones where it's like there's like two or three previous versions before Shakespeare writes his King Lear. It's kind of a history, but a very dramatized history, and then the way that Shakespeare writes this King Lear is very much all about tragedy and misery. This is really just like pure tragedy. There is no redeeming of anyone here, or some sort of weird comedic ending like there was for Hamlet, where we had like one or two characters that had this kind of weird comedic ending. This one, complete and absolute tragedy. And I think you can tell that before you even get even close to the end. Because I think the main question here, from an interpretive standpoint, is who's good? Who's good in this situation, and who's bad in the situation? I think in a lot of tellings of this, because we want good people and bad people, and so in I think a lot of versions of this, there's an immediate knee-jerk reaction to make Gonriel and to make Regan evil from the start. But is that really the case? If you are being given huge chunks of land to rule over, and your father wants to be treated like a king but have none of the responsibilities, and be seen as higher than you but have no responsibilities, and thinks that he can do whatever he wants without any repercussions, what else are you supposed to do in that situation other than try to remove some of his power over you, right? What else are you supposed to do? And so I think from an interpretive standpoint, right, you kind of have to decide whether it is you're going to make Gonriel and Regan evil from the start, or if this is their evilness that gets pushed out and shown is a reaction to the way that King Lear has treated them and Cordelia up to that point, right? And even like Cordelia, right? What is being good? In the opening scene, you're in the situation in which it is very clear to everyone else that like the kingdom is already divided, and you're just doing a performance for the king to get your section of the kingdom. And so is it the good thing to do for Cordelia to say nothing and offend her father and offend the suitors? Is it a good thing for her to say, or is it the right thing for her to say that, right? Because from a moralistic standpoint, that is the right thing to do. It is to say that I cannot love you with all my heart because I'm about to be married, and therefore I have to give some of my love to this other person. But is that, and that's the moralistically right thing to do, but at the same time, is that the right thing to do? Is that the thing that you should be doing in this situation? And then, right, and then we come down to Gloucester. We have Gloucester and his treatment of his sons, right? We have Edmund and we have Edgar. And Gloucester very openly treats Edmund very poorly at the beginning, is openly ashamed of him and of seeing him around, because Edmund is a physical representation of his infidelity, right? And so once again we have this character that we eventually are forced to see as one of the good characters, but at the same time we know that he's not good. We know that he's bad. We know that he is a morally corrupt person in some way. Not even for the infidelity, but just for the treatment of his son, of Edmund. And yet we are asked to sympathize with him. Really, I think the only character that you can quantifiably say is bad is Edmund. But even then, right, Edmund is the bastard son. He has no claims and no authority over anything at the end of this. Or if everything was to go the way it was supposed to go, right? And it's not because Edmund did something wrong. It is because Edmund was born in a position that he had no decision over. It just does not matter if Edmund is the more charming one, which is he is normally portrayed as. In the majority of tellings of this, he's usually portrayed as the more charming, more attractive one. And that's like his position in life is no fault of his own. He has no choice over his birth. And yet he is forced into nothingness, which I think is plenty enough reason to be upset and want to try to overthrow things, right? That's an entirely fair reason to, you were born into a situation that you have no control over, and somehow because of that you are deemed useless and worthless. So, you know, even Edmund, is not necessarily a Machiavellian, I'm evil because I'm evil. There's still a reasoning there. So I think that was kind of my really big takeaway from King Lear, is this just concept of asking, what does it mean to be good? And who should we really be rooting for in tragedies? That's that. I guess the other kind of thing to focus on is just kind of overall question of what does it mean to have authority over another person? You know, is it right for King Lear, or even like, does it make sense for King Lear to give up all of his responsibilities as a king, but still keep all of the entitlement that comes with the title, right? Is that something he should have even considered in the first place? Because as soon as he loses all the responsibilities, well then why should he have any of the respect of a king? And then even to that extent, right, on the opposite end of that spectrum, why do his daughters have authority over him once they have the responsibilities of ruling their parts of the kingdom? Right, and I think it speaks to this idea that somehow because we take on responsibilities of an area, that we are therefore in charge of all the well-being of the area, which I think is like a really important thing just to kind of in life in general, is that like in work and in life and in school and whatnot, once you take on responsibilities of something, you are suddenly responsible for everything that happens in that area. Whether or not it's an intended consequence or not, you are suddenly responsible for it. And you somehow have authority over it, even if you shouldn't. Yeah, that's really all I got on King Lear. This was not, I think, probably my least favorite out of the Shakespeare that I've read so far for this class. There just wasn't a lot that was super interesting to me. I'm trying to, the ending is just, everything is tragic at the end. You even get this kind of great big heroic comeback story of Edgar comes back and is looking to take on the world, and in the end it doesn't matter. And then what is it, Kent and whoever the fuck other one was, someone else, get to be in charge of the world and get to be in charge of the kingdom, and yeah. Yeah, it's Edgar and Kent. It's Edgar and Kent that get to be ruling the kingdom in the end. Good for them, right? They're now ruling a very broken kingdom. Edgar has a very triumphant return. That's great and wonderful. Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think of anything else that was like really worth mentioning. Oh, I guess the other thing that's kind of worth mentioning is we get this kind of weird scenario in which this once again goes back to this idea of what is good and what is bad, in which the invasion of Britain by France is already underway by Cordelia before we get into this kind of treachery in which King Lear is stripped of his standing by the other daughters, by Goneril and Regan. And so in the end, although we envision the right thing is done, we envision that Goneril and Regan and their husbands and Edmund all get their comeuppance. Well, that was already in play before they did anything bad. So it's kind of like using the wrong equation to get the right answer. Cordelia in France is invading because of what has happened to Cordelia and her being effectively thrown out of the court, right? That's why France is invading, and that happens before the King Lear has 50 of his men dismissed and is thrown out into the storm, right? So once again, we have to ask, what is good and what is bad? Why does Cordelia and why does King Lear have to be the good guys in this? Because if you are Regan and Goneril, what else are you supposed to do in that situation? That's kind of King Lear. Complete and absolute tragedy.